The Laughing Man: An Adult World in the Eyes of a Child by Ryan Durkee. The Laughing Man is a short story by J.D. Salinger featured in one of his novels, Nine Stories. Mainly taking place in the 1920s, it follows the memories of the 9-year-old narrator in the Comanche Club, as well as its leader, the Chief. The once Comanche recounts his summers riding on the Chief's bus to each and every baseball game and occasionally some museums, and the Chief's account of the Laughing Man. The Comanches desire to hear the life of the Laughing Man, as the children and even the Chief himself live vicariously through this fictionalized character. It is only when the Chief's love interest, Mary Hudson, disrupts the Comanche bond, forcing the Chief to question his place in the children's lives and the untimely demise of the Laughing Man. In analyzing the text, I focus on how innate this sense of innocence is in children and the stark contrast that surfaces from the relationships between child and adult. Their desperate attempt to cling on to their innocence, specifically the Chief, is because of the ignorance stemming from their fixation on the story of the Laughing Man. The Laughing Man himself is a described sort of compassionate criminal in which he has the qualities of a man that seeks vengeance, however continues to nurture his animal sidekicks that seem to worship his every move, very similar to the relationship between the Chief and the Comanche Club. In their fixation on the Laughing Man and his tale, the children, and in recounting the story the Chief as well, seemingly disconnect from their outer reality and create ties to this deformed figure hiding behind the red poppy petal mask. This idea of hiding behind a mask in itself is an important symbol in the short story, as it alludes to the incredible power of innocence. As a young Comanche, this is understandable. They are ignorant to the complexities of adulthood and desire to know and absorb the hero of the story. However, the Chief, an adult and in a very adult relationship with Mary Hudson, is blind to his overpowering attraction to the Laughing Man, and as a way to revert back to a time where he could still feel that innate power of innocence. The ignorance that stems from idolizing the wrong adult is examined in a publication that I analyzed by Nicole Holman, in which, as children fabricate a kind of transactive relationship between the past and the present, that of the narrator still recounting this fictionalized tale, or the Chief, depicted as John Godutsky, telling children a complicated extended metaphor of his own life, there lies the problem in manifesting the complex of a role model in an adult, as they are imperfect too. In establishing these complexities, Salinger highlights both the platonic and sexual relationships that exist in the Laughing Man, specifically as the idea of the Chief having a +1 grows on the Comanche bunch, an important platonic relationship between Mary Hudson and the children develops, explicitly seen between the narrator and Mary. In this lies an additional contrast between the ruggedness of baseball and the described femaleness of Mary. At the same time, an obvious sexual relationship subsists between the Chief and Mary Hudson. However, it is not fully understood by the Comanches and ultimately ruined by the Chief, as he does not understand the complexity of their relationship. The drastic contrast between child and adult only adds to the innocence that comes from a child's point of view. Salinger himself struggled with the complexities of adult relationships. In another publication written by William Wygant, he examines the idea of the struggles that Salinger suffered with, highlighting that only through his personal experiences can his text truly resonate with the reader, and notably, this is incredibly similar to the Chief and his account of the Laughing Man. As a connection between the Laughing Man and the life of Salinger, Wygant also explains a Freudian principle, sublimation in art. Freud explains that an author, an artist, and a musician alike utilize their art as a means of expressing personal hardships among other experiences. This is often studied in Salinger's Catcher in the Rye. However, The Laughing Man also delves deeper into the struggles that consume both child and adult, and the role that innocence plays in identity and development. In an immense struggle to live a quiet an isolated life, Salinger inadvertently created a larger interest in himself. The curiosity that surfaced from his work only made people ask more and more questions, leading to an increased demand for his voice in literature. But, as we all know, there was no answer from Salinger. This isolation is commonly seen in The Laughing Man, as Mary Hudson isolates herself from the chief and the Comanches, as well as the chief, as he loses control of his own reality. Here, both the chief and the once Comanche narrator assume a similar identity as Salinger, in which the two suffer with understanding their own realities as they create and absorb an alternate reality, that of the Laughing Man. Their dependency on storytelling is almost identical to Salinger and his need to write from a place of hurt and conflict. This connection between the two adds to both the fictionalized and conversely a true-to-life desire to hold on to one's identity for as long as possible. Thus, it is easy to understand that Salinger crafted this short story as a means of using the red poppy petal mask to hide behind, rather than face reality in itself. As the chief struggles with the development of his relationship with Mary Hudson, he reverts back to the story of the Laughing Man once again, as he only further forces the demise of their relationship. As a direct result of their breakup, he abruptly kills the Laughing Man as the fictional character dies with his last attempt to save his own club of followers. It is the end of the chief's slow plummet into being an adult, as the very last bit of innocence dies along with the Laughing Man. It is significant to note that although the chief relies on this virtual reality, he must cut ties in order to move on, even though it may be difficult and painful in the process. Salinger positions the characters to sulk in the loss of a hero. However, he is suggesting that both realities cannot exist alongside one another. As the story comes to an end, the Comanches are left to come to terms with the death of the Laughing Man and a matured chief, as they lack any sense of the extent of the chief's relationship with his own reality, thus furthering the idea of innocence being a mask to hide behind. In its lasting effects, the Laughing Man offers insight on the vastness of adulthood and conversely the limitations of childhood. It is only through maturation of both identity and emotional development in which the Comanche bunch can go forth in sorting this dissociative reality that the chief has fabricated through his tragic storytelling.